Hi, it's Lee. Today we're going to tune up the Wrangler. We're going to replace the hammer and trigger spring and polish up some of the internals. So first we'll show that the gun is actually clear. First step, press the base pin latch, remove the base pin, and take the cylinder out. Screwdriver, punch something to capture the hammer spring, and Torx head. Okay, so we'll take the grip frames off and cock the hammer. It's that small hole in there. You can put a finishing nail or something in there to capture that. Then lower the hammer. You can see that takes the tension off of the spring. Since we're going to be replacing the trigger spring, we can actually take those off. And then you take the 5 screws out. So we'll start with the front. One of these screws by the trigger is longer than the other one. You can see that one's longer, and that's on this side where the loading gate is. Take the ones in the back out. And as you can see, I have them in order so that I know which way they actually go back in. Then to separate it, I'm going to pull out, down, and that's it. So trigger spring out. Trigger retaining pin. So there's a little spacer there. And then the trigger and hammer assembly pull out. Okay, so you have transfer bar and the hand. Just know which sides they go on. So we're going to be polishing up the hand, the engagement surface on the trigger, on the hammer, and the sear surface on the trigger, as well as then polish up the transfer bar. Now you can remove the hammer strut. Just take it out from the other side. And we'll polish up the hammer strut as well. We'll leave the trigger spring in there for now. And we'll polish up this surface as well. Polish this all up. Okay, so the easiest way to get the hammer spring off of here is to use this fork and go in between the coils there. That way you can depress the spring. Always make sure you're wearing safety glasses because this is under pressure, and if it comes off, it will fly. Okay, so we are back. We've got all the parts polished up. We installed the new spring on the hammer. We are using a Brownell's Pro Spring Kit RSA 003, which is a 17-pound hammer spring and 35% reduced trigger spring, which is about 30 ounces. We did trim 2 coils off of the hammer spring to get it to the same length as the original spring. So you spent a little bit of time polishing up on the trigger and the hammer, and then polished up the other surfaces. So we'll put it back together again. So this goes in like this. This goes in the back of the grip frame. That's what the ball goes on there. The transfer bar. Goes on here. Okay, so these all just drop into place. This. You can put the hammer pin back through. And we have this spacer. Oop. What's the problem with that? Okay, so that's all back together again. We've taken the trigger spring out, the lighter spring. So the legs go down. Oops. trigger retaining spring. Pin, put that in here. Make sure that goes through both of the holes. And if we put some tension on this, this will stay in place. Goes back in there, plunger up. Spring out. Looks to be in place. Put the hammer strut in. Okay, so we're back. I ended up having to take the screws back out to get the trigger spring underneath of the trigger. So, no big deal. Okay, so we're all back together again to get this hex key out of the hole there. Put the cylinder back in, reinsert the base pin. Close the loading gate, cock the hammer, and then you can pull that out. And that's a lot smoother. And then all we need to do is put the grip panels back on, and we're all done. Okay, so we're all done. Take it out to the range. We'll do a side by side for the stock versus the tuned, and see how we do. It makes a big difference, I think. So definitely feels a lot better. Till next time.